Come around now, all of you little cubs, and listen to the story of Old Big Bear, or as I like to think of it, how the grizzly cubs tricked their parents. Now, you cubs probably think that I was always the fearsome grizzly that you see before you today. But, believe it or not, I was once a little cub too. And while now I can come and go as I like without anyone telling me what to do or when to do it, back then well, myself and all of my little bear pals, would have to listen to what the elder bear said. Of course, you cubs know how annoying it can be when your mother or father tells you to clean your fangs or go to bed early or tidy up your den and that kind of thing. Well, let me tell you about the time me and my grizzly pals tricked our parents into not being too strict. When I was a cub, all of the older bears told us the stories of Old Big Bear. Old Big Bear lived a very long time ago, and our parents told us that he would call to the forest on every full moon to visit the dens of bold grizzly cubs. If he came to your den, he would ask if you had been a good little cub and done what your parents said since the last full moon. And if you had not, he would stand up on his back legs, growl, and show his huge, scary fangs. Naturally, we were all very nervous when the full moon came around, and we were always on our best behavior in the days before it. Our parents also knew that we were very nervous, so they would be strict, knowing that we would not misbehave. My mother would say things like, "If you eat too much honey, Old Big Bear will come for you," and "No milk before bed, Huggy, or Old Big Bear will snap you up with his big teeth." Now, as you cubs know, milk and honey are a grizzly's favorite treat, so I always hated Old Big Bear. The thing was, however, no one had ever seen Old Big Bear. As leader of the grizzly cubs, I was no stranger to causing a little bit of trouble every now and again, and yet, as bold as I had been, Old Big Bear never called to my den. Naturally, I began to wonder if Old Big Bear existed at all. Well, one day I was out exploring with my pals when we stumbled upon High Up Cave, a place we had never before visited. Of course, being brave young grizzlies, we had to explore it. The cave was not terribly big, about double the size of a grizzly den, but inside it was very, very dark. We began to play happily inside, chasing one another in the dark and making fine echoes as we growled and shouted towards the cave's tall ceiling. Just then, two cubs who had been wrestling and rolling about near the back of the cave came running and calling us all around. "Look here," they squealed. "What is it?" There, half buried in the earth, lay a curious mound with unusual holes and very sharp edges. Naturally, we all grew very excited. I told the others to gather up some twigs and leaves, and I set a fire by cracking two rocks together. As the fire grew brighter, it lit up the cave and revealed that our mound was in fact the skull of a giant ancient cave bear. We all growled with excitement and carefully began to dig it out of the earth, admiring its massive sharp fangs. The skull was so big that it took all of my strength to lift it and carry it out into the light. However, just as I was leaving the cave, I heard a howl of terror. "Old Big Bear!" cried one of the cubs. "He has come for us!" All of my pals began to panic and ran for the exit of the cave as fast as they could. Now, having my doubts about Old Big Bear, I remained calm, and looking up, I saw the silly cubs had simply seen the shadow of the skull being thrown onto the wall of the cave by the fire that we had lit. As the flames flickered and moved, so too did the shadow, and I have to admit, it did actually look like a fearsome creature with its huge fangs showing, and that gave me a great idea. All of the frightened cubs ran home and told their parents that old Big Bear was living in High Up Cave. Before long, all the grizzlies of the forest came up to the cave with their little ones peeping out nervously from behind their hind legs. By this time, I had gathered many more sticks and leaves, and when all of the bears had gathered outside of the cave, I made a great big flame and lifted the ancient skull high so that it cast a huge shadow on the wall. Everyone outside gasped and fell down to their knees. I began to talk in my deepest grizzly voice. Grizzlies, listen to me. I am Old Big Bear, and for a very long time you have warned that I will come to this forest. I am here now, and this is my cave. Any bear that sets paw in here will be very severely punished. All of the elder bears looked at one another in shock, and one nervously asked, "Oh, great old Big Bear, is there anything that you need from us?" "Yes," I thundered. "On every full moon, I want every grizzly family to leave 1 cup of honey and 1 cup of milk outside this cave for me. If you do not, I will be very angry, and I will come to the den of any bear that forgets." Then I quickly put out the fire and waited for all of the bears to nervously make their way home. The next day, I called all of my pals together and told them what I had done. Naturally, they thought that I was a real hero. "Now we will have as much honey and milk as we can fit," one said. "We'll be bursting with all of that sweet honey," said another. And so it was for a long time. Every full moon, I would sneak into the cave and tell the elder bears to leave their gifts, and for days after, we cubs ate like royals. And you know what? It could have gone on like that forever, except that one day, a big group of humans showed up at our cave with their silly tiny shovels and teeny weeny little brushes. They got terribly excited and took away our skull for themselves. That, of course, put an end to our full moon feasts. But even though old Big Bear disappeared from High Up Cave as suddenly as he had arrived, our parents had changed. They stopped talking about old Big Bear altogether, and instead of scary stories about him, they would tell us cubs nice woodland tales. Parents stopped telling their cubs not to eat so much honey, and my parents didn't even mind if I drank some milk before bed. So, little ones, even though our mighty trick did not last forever, it did mean that our parents were no longer so strict with us after old Big Bear's visit. And in the end, just as our parents were never too strict with us cubs, we, in turn, were never too greedy, and that was the best for everyone.